The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports. You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
My initial reaction, Brett McMurphy sort of leaked the news that SMU was going to get in. So, any of my enthusiasm was tempered. But I'll say this, that I think you and I share the same opinion. Alabama wasn't necessarily robbed. I do say snubbed. I think those are two different things. And I think that they picked the worst team that they could pick of all the available teams for that slot. If I were ranking those teams, SMU would be my last place team. And they also sent out a horrible message. Don't schedule anybody who's any good if you don't have to, especially if you're in the SEC and you already have a bunch of SEC teams that are on your docket. Because, see, the SEC carries so much weight that Texas really isn't penalized. Texas has one of the worst SEC schedules I've seen in years. The only team they had to play was Georgia, and they couldn't do it twice. So my point is, don't ever schedule Wisconsin again. Don't ever schedule Ohio State. Cancel all of them immediately. And I'm a schedule guy. I want power schedules. I love what Nate Oates is doing. I can live with losing to Oregon and losing to at Purdue. I can live as long as it teaches us to go win at North Carolina, teaches us to win against Houston in basketball. And so I'd be all for that too if they held scheduling in the same regard, but they don't. Clearly they don't. SMU played Little Sisters of the Poor. They played a 2A football schedule here in the state of Alabama, and they get all the rewards. And the only two teams they played all year with a pulse, they couldn't beat them. So I don't see the benefit to playing a tough team on your schedule ever again. And next year, if I'm Greg Byrne, I immediately call Florida State and say, sorry, not sorry. We're going to get out of this contract. Oh, it's going to cost us $300,000. No problem. We'll call Mercer back. We'll pay them $1 million to come here, and then we'll make more money. Same thing with Wisconsin. Sorry, y'all don't get to come back. Sorry, we're going to buy you out of that. And we're going to call Mercer again. We're going to play Mercer 3 times next year. They're going to get rich, and we're going to get rich. And then we don't have to worry about injuries and bruises. Nicole Auerbach, in her infinite wisdom, said something about how, I don't understand why Alabama fans are so mad about the non-con. They didn't lose any of those. It's all part of the scheduling. Do you see that when you play Florida State and Wisconsin, the nicks and the bruises from playing Power 4 teams add up throughout the year? When you're Texas and you play a bunch of nobodies, and when you're especially SMU and you play a bunch of nobodies, you don't have to worry about that quite as much. It's a violent sport all the time, every time, but it's much more violent yesterday. And if you watch Georgia take on Texas and you think that's the same category of sport as what you saw with Clemson and SMU, you're out your mind.
Yeah, I don't think that so much about what happened with the committee really had a lot to do with this year. To me, it's more about the message that was sent by the committee. And the message is we care more about wins than we do about who those wins are against. We want wins. That's what impresses us. That's what put SMU in. They had wins. Now, they obviously pay some attention to strength of schedule because Army wasn't in the discussion today. So they clearly know about strength of schedule, or Army, who actually won their conference, would be a thing, and they're not. So they do glance at strength of schedule, but they don't put full weight behind it, and that's why SMU's in, and that's why I agree with Luke that I think there's going to be a couple of results that come from this decision, and one is going to be teams like Alabama going, you know what? We don't seem to benefit from strength of schedule here. So why on earth would we load our non-conference with potential losable games? Keep in mind, Alabama didn't lose their non-conference games this year. SMU's non-conference games weren't actually terrible on the surface, although they just ended up not being good teams. But I do think Alabama is very likely. I don't know that they will cancel Florida State and Wisconsin because it's so soon. It's very difficult, I think, to get a new opponent when the games are just a few months away. So, but I do think the future schedule that includes the Notre Dame and Ohio State, I think those are very possibly going to go away. And it won't just be Alabama, Luke. It will be others. Think of this. Clemson got in, but you know why they almost didn't get in? Because they voluntarily added Georgia and South Carolina to their schedule. Imagine if those two games had been against Citadel and Mercer, then Clemson wouldn't have had to breathe so heavy and pull out the last game with a 57-yard field goal or something, because they would have been in. And I think all these teams are going to start doing that. And I fear the message that the committee sent was, we care about wins, and that's ultimately how you're going to get in this thing. Mute.
I can't believe there aren't more Miami fans, South Carolina fans, Ole Miss fans more upset about SMU. Now, because I guess the reason is because they already said the president of SMU isn't in, Alabama is. But now think about it this way. Take Alabama out of it. If you're an Alabama fan, if you're an Ole Miss fan, South Carolina fan, Miami fan, you should be like, what in the world?
Yes.
Hey, by the way, I would like to know, Tyler Coggins, what group of savages do you root for? You say we can't make a 12-team playoff. We made about all the 14 playoffs. We should have been in this one. And again, it was our fault. Jimmy and I have said this over and over and over again. It's our fault. We lost 3 games and we lost 2 to teams we definitely had no business losing to, 100%. We've also said, and again, I guess I need to do this every podcast because there are people on here who only see us every now and again. Justin Clayton says, win your games. Don't worry, Justin. We're going to start winning a lot more because we're going to get rid of the good games that are fun to watch. We're going to schedule more like Auburn does. We're going to pick up California. We're going to pick up Baylor. We're going to pick up some of those fun teams. You can have Ohio State.
I wouldn't even do that.
Notre Dame.
I wouldn't even play California and Baylor.
I'm using that just to insult him.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to do that.
I'm just insulting him with that because I had Auburn fans too. I love that we're doing our schedule. Your schedule stinks. You picked up Baylor and California, and you can't beat them. That's what's funny.
Yeah, but I would cancel like Ohio State and replace them seriously with someone like Louisiana Monroe.
And listen to me, Justin. Again, Justin just got in on this apparently, and Justin's a friend of mine. He's a smart dude, but he says it wasn't the out-of-conference games you lost. That is very correct. But when you have to prepare for more Power 5 teams, or Power 4 teams, I should say, that's where the more nicks and the more bruises come in.
We can't not schedule SEC teams. That comes from the league office.
Correct.
But we can have control over the non-conference, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to exercise their control that they have over the non-conference games. And the whole point isn't Alabama didn't get in because of non-conference games. The whole point is there is a new landscape out there, a new set of rules, and the new set of rules include we care about wins. We don't care about interesting intersectional games. So there's no benefit to Alabama playing a road game at Ohio State where you lose all that income to the city of Tuscaloosa by not having a home game. There's no benefit. Alabama used to believe that they benefited from playing those games. The benefit of that is gone. Because again, they care about the wins. So again, Justin makes a good point in the sense that, hey, had Alabama played Mercer 4 times, you still wouldn't have been in because you lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt.
No, I disagree with that. I disagree with that because I disagree with that in the sense that we wouldn't have had to prepare. I'll tell you something. The team that fought us even harder than Wisconsin was South Florida. I don't want to play South Florida anymore. I want to, if it's non-conference, I want the easiest non-con you can give me. I have gone 180 degrees on this, or as my old golf buddy used to say, 190 degrees on this. I've gone straight up from it and a little bit wonky. Now, what I'm saying is, if the message is we don't care about your schedule as long as you just beat who's in front of you. Okay, we can live by that. We can. But what you're going to get, CBS, ABC, ESPN, casual college football watcher, what you're going to get while y'all been complaining and moaning and bitching about Mercers, you're about to get so many Mercers you don't know what to do. You're about to get Mercers and La Monroes out to Yin Yang. And again, you sent the message saying this is okay. And
yes. I do believe that's going to be one of the fallouts here is that, and a second fallout, which is even bigger, and I believe this is coming, there will be increased talk that Greg Sankey is going to pull the SEC out of this format and future formats and simply have an agreement with the Big Ten, who they've already kind of formed, for lack of a better term, an alliance. And I think the SEC and the Big Ten are going to have more urgent discussions about doing their own thing and having their own postseason.
And I hope they do it next year. And then SMU can schedule whoever they want to, and so can Boise State, and they can have a conference championship. And let's just stack those two together and see who watches.
Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Peach Bowl is awesome. It's on the other side of the country. That's tough. You will play either Clemson or Texas, depending on the outcome of that first round game. That's because Texas is the number 5 seed. So in theory, ASU would play the highest ranked seed of all the winners if Texas were to win. But if Clemson wins, then you are playing lowest ranked seed. But either way, you're either playing the SEC runner-up or the ACC champion. You're playing a good team either way. As far as Kenny, no. $100 million contract, whatever it takes to keep him here, you find a way to keep him here. I've been very vocal about this on the podcast. I'm never, ever, ever going to back down on it unless I am proven wrong. And I promise you, I will never be proven wrong on this. He's not going anywhere. But that doesn't mean that you should sit on your hands. Now is the time to strike. The iron has never been hotter to keep Kenny Dillingham here. Second year with the program, he just had 11 wins. That's the most wins that this program has had in forever. Because I don't know, in the height of those Todd Graham football record by year, I don't know in those Todd Graham days if he got 11 wins. I know he had back-to-back 10-win seasons. I don't remember if he got to 11. So, but point is, he's at 11 wins in his second season. No matter how this season ends, he will have a record above 500 through 2 years, including his first year of getting 3 wins. That's insane. So yeah, in the back-to-back 10-win seasons under Todd Graham, they were 10-3, 10-4. In 2007, when they won the Pac, they were 10-3 with Dennis Erickson. You literally go back to 1996, where they were 11-1 and they barely lost that Rose Bowl with Bruce Snyder. This is literally the best season you have had since 1996. So you're talking about my entire life. I was born in 95. There is almost 30 years that you're talking about between the last best season that ASU has had and this year. That is such a big deal. If you want to go even further than that, you have to go to 1975 when ASU was 12-0 undefeated with Frank Kush. That was also the Fiesta Bowl, I'm pretty sure. And even more importantly, if I'm not mistaken, that should have been our national championship season. I think that 75 was the one where we got screwed by Oklahoma. So, yeah, that definitely was because we finished number 2 in the AP poll that year. So you'd be going back to what should have been a national championship for ASU when you're looking at how successful this season has been. Yeah, it's time to get Kenny Dillingham locked up. $100 million, whatever it takes. We'll come together and we'll pitch in. I'll pay some of Kenny's salary every year. I don't care. Yeah, I want him around. It's really fun. Not even from being the Locked On Sun Devils host, being an alum and someone who watched this team grow up. I wouldn't care if I had this platform or not. I want Kenny Dillingham here as long as possible. Make him a lifer because it just makes the game that much more fun. And I know I'm not the only one. I know every single person in this live and everyone who checks out this live later on is of the opinion, do what we got to do. Timberwolf95, good to see you in here again. I don't think you've missed a live. I was wishing for a flipping Fiesta Bowl, would have been amazing to see a stadium full. It would have been, but good news. It's still going to be a full stadium. It's just going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, instead of Glendale, Arizona. ASU fans travel, man. I've said this before. When you are good in Arizona, ASU, Arizona Cardinals, Phoenix Suns, Arizona Diamondbacks, whatever. When you are good, the state of Arizona fans are as loyal as they get. You look at the Phoenix Suns back in the mid 2010s, right? Like Devin Booker had just got here, but it was still a really bad team. It was hard to get those stands to fill out. I remember when I was at ASU on campus, and some of the guys that I was rooming with for not lodging, what do you call it? The dorms, that they were looking at going to a Suns game, and it was like $10 tickets, and I was like, it's not even worth it. And they were like, well, it's the Warriors. We can see Steph Curry. That was the logic we had when the Suns were bad. Was, well, I'm not going to see the Suns. I'm going to see other star players. Now, dude, Suns games are probably sold out every single game, and it has been like that for years at this point because they put together a winning product. When you put together something that is worth watching, Arizona fans everywhere, college football, NFL, basketball, baseball, whatever, they will give you the attention, they will give you the love, and they are die hard. Arizona sports fans will bleed for this team, but you've got to hold up your end of the bargain. So ASU is holding up their end of the bargain. And you look at this team this year, and they're selling out the stadium. They are traveling. That was a really good look in Arlington, Texas. I understand that Atlanta, Georgia is probably more than double the distance. I don't have a map in front of me. I would imagine it's probably double the distance from where we are to Arlington, but I'm not sure. They're still going to travel really, really well. I definitely have the faith for the ASU loyal to be able to make that trip out there. What else is going on, BC? I'm still pissed. Boise got the easier route. That's okay. Like I said, we can sit here and debate, is ASU supposed to be ranked higher than Boise State? This, that, and the other. I hear it. I understand you. At this point, it doesn't matter. And with where we're at, I would tell you that ASU should take the high road anyways and say, yeah, you know what? We don't care. We got disrespected all year long, but we got the respect we deserved when it mattered. Now let's go out and make people look stupid. That should be the priority from here on out. We got what we deserved. Even if it didn't go the way that we wanted it to go, we still got it. End of the day. And we can't sit here and complain because we're not an SEC school. We're better than that, right? We are better than the whiners in the SEC, the ones who are 6th place and 7th place. And they want to talk about how great their conference is. And it's like, you're not contributing to that. Neither here nor there. The point I'm trying to make is we got it. We're good. Let's move forward. We got what we needed. Yeah, we can sit here and complain. And like I said earlier, that's the point of this show. Let's get it out because I don't want to record an episode of complaining. And I would rather all of my subscribers, let's get it out there. So yeah, fill up the comments. Let's complain about it. And then starting tomorrow, when we start moving forward, all I want in my comments is just pride, cockiness, and guys saying we deserve it. So get it out of the way today. Love you guys. JH, what's going on? I was getting real emotional yesterday, Sun Devil for life. Dude, who wasn't getting emotional? It was amazing. I'm so glad to hear that I wasn't the only one that was on the edge of my seat. I know Joe Healy, son of Tim Healy, the voice of the Sun Devils and everything, was saying he was getting real emotional listening to his dad call the game and everything. It's a big deal for Sun Devils fans, whether it's the generations that grew up with Frank Kush or it's the brand new students that have come in within the last 2 to 3 years. This is a huge deal for ASU. I know some people show emotions in different ways. I don't care how you do it. I just want you to understand how special this is and get emotional, whether that's the happy tears, whether that's cranking up the volume in the car and screaming all the lyrics and everything. Whatever it is, get emotional. We deserve this. We've been through a lot. BC, SMU, and Penn State are both easier than ASU's potential opponents. I don't disagree with you. They're still really good teams, though. It's not like ASU was going to be dealt a game against Arizona. They were always going to have to play a really good opponent. Texas and Clemson, they are flawed teams. They are good football teams. But even if you played SMU or Penn State, it's still going to be a tough game. I have crapped all over Penn State. And in fairness to Penn State, that's still a good football team, and they deserve the respect they got. They played really close with Oregon last night and made me look dumb. I said Oregon by 14 or more. They were in that game the whole night. So props to Penn State. They made me look a little silly, but that's okay. Texas, Penn State, SMU, Clemson, whoever. I said this yesterday. It's on a short on YouTube. You can pull it up on YouTube. You can pull it up on Twitter. You can also check out the full-length podcast if you would like. Up to you. But all I said was there is not a program in this country, blue blood, sneak into the playoffs, whatever, that should look at ASU and go, that's an easy win. Every single team, Oregon, SMU, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, whoever, should look at ASU and they should think they could definitely beat us. We got to play up to our best potential, because if we don't, we could lose. That's the way they need to be looking at this right now. Craig, what's going on, my friend? Drake Toll contributed to that narrative all along. The Fiesta Bowl would have been great. I got good news for you, Craig, and everyone else in the comments. Me and Drake are getting up together tomorrow to record a crossover episode. I would anticipate that to drop on Tuesday. Also, shout out to our friend on Twitter, Commit to the Fork, who is getting Drake Toll a ASU sweater that will be sent over to him, and then Drake will be rocking that bad boy for ASU. So I know he's been super BYU all year. I'm telling you, I love Drake to pieces. I hope that you guys do too. Keep giving him a hard time. I hope we never stop giving him a hard time, because he's hilarious. But he is going to be walking that walk. He's going to talk that talk for ASU. He's going to go to bat for us, and he's getting an ASU hoodie. So give the man some credit there. Sean, what's going on? Good to see you, Sean. ASU is in. Doesn't matter. Now handle business. ASU needs to build on success. Earn the respect. Build it. It wasn't sustained success. That's another really big deal here. We got what we needed. You take care of business this year. Honestly, even if you're one and done, like, you may not win a playoff game this year. That's fine. You just need to make sure that you're building upon it for next year. One of the things that I've said recently is that the sleeping giant is woken up and ASU is built for long-term success. I've had some people tell me to slow it down. It's 1 year, blah, blah, blah. I do hear you. I understand you. And this is exactly why. Is I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, and I'm right, by the way. I'm never wrong, and even when I'm wrong, it's not my fault. Not really. ASU is built for success for the future now and indefinitely.
Notre Dame is in the college football playoff, and the path to ending that national championship drought is not going to be easy. But
you are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
All right, we have a real college football playoff bracket to talk about today. We have been speculating about this for weeks. Honestly, it feels like months, but now it's official. Notre Dame is in. They know their first team that they're going to be going up against, and they know their path to ending that long-awaited national championship drought. So let's talk about it. There's a bunch of people who are going to be really upset with the College Football Playoff Committee, the rankings, all that stuff. Personally, I don't think Notre Dame fans have that much to be upset about. Yes, it could have been an easier path if some things had kind of worked out in their favor, but whatever. Ending that national championship drought was never going to be easy, and this is an extremely exciting game in the first round for Notre Dame and a potential second-round game as well if they're able to get by the Hoosiers. Like, it's going to be tough, but it could end up being a lot of fun. There are so many fun, exciting storylines that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about in the coming weeks. all the way up into the lead up into that game against Indiana in that first round. But let's take a look at this bracket, okay? Because Notre Dame is the 7th seed. They're going to be taking on Indiana, who's the 10th seed, but they're actually ranked 5th. So Oregon comes in at number 1. Makes sense. They're undefeated Big Ten champs. They beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship in a game that was closer than a lot of people thought. Georgia, they get the 2 seed and 2 ranking because they're the SEC champion. They jump over Texas, who is ranked 3rd. Penn State is 4th. They remain ahead of Notre Dame despite the loss in the Big Ten championship. I'll explain why I'm not that surprised about that here in a moment, but let's go through these rankings. Notre Dame is 5th. Ohio State is 6th. Tennessee 7th, Indiana 8th, Boise State 9, SMU is 10th, and then Alabama is the first team out because Arizona State, the Big 12 champion, is ranked 12th. So you look at that, the rankings, then you look at the bracket. As I said, Notre Dame is the 7th seed. They're taking on the 10th seed IU. If they win that game, they will take on Georgia, who's the 2 seed in New Orleans. Think about that scene for a second. Oregon gets the 1 seed. Boise State gets the 3 seed. Arizona State gets the 4 seed. So there's plenty of people who are really upset with the committee, the format, and I get it. I don't love the format. I don't love the fact that the conference champions get automatic buys. I think that's kind of ridiculous. But hey, this is what they agreed to, okay? This is the format that we all knew it was going to be. So now people are like, the committee screwed this all up. I mean, yeah, there's definitely some arguments to be made about teams in different spots, but like, we all knew this was the setup, so I don't know why people are acting so surprised and so butthurt about all of this when it's like, you signed up for this. You knew the rules, and yes, it's certainly flawed. I don't agree with the fact that, like, Oregon, for example, gets the 1 seed, and their reward for that is playing the winner of the 8-9 game, which is Tennessee and Ohio State, 2 very good programs. Like, yeah, it's certainly flawed, but it is what it is, okay? And for Notre Dame, yes, they could have had an easier path, but you know what? Playing a team like Indiana, that's awesome, okay? Because I had been going through, like, the best paths, the best case scenarios for Notre Dame in the college football playoff for a while, and I would have some people get mad at me. They'd be like, why are you talking about these potential playoff games and Notre Dame isn't even in the college football playoff? Like, you're going to be the reason they lose to USC. It's like, I'm not on the team. I don't have to be focused on the game. I'm just talking about what is most interesting, and playoff scenarios are interesting. So now we have the real actual playoff scenarios ahead of Notre Dame, and that matchup against IU, it's going to be the first ever college football playoff game in this new expanded format. It's going to be a home game in South Bend, late December. Like, there is going to be so much interest and intrigue in that game, and I think that's what really is exciting about this, because if Notre Dame was going to be playing a team like, let's say UNLV. Let's say somehow UNLV won the Mountain West Conference Championship. They came to South Bend in that first game. Like, it's going to be exciting. We'd all be excited to watch Notre Dame in that game, but it's like, it's not nearly as fun or as captivating as playing a team like Indiana, because even though Indiana isn't like a heavyweight historically in college football, they've been one of the best stories this year. Curt Cignetti, first year as the head coach of the Hoosiers after coming over from James Madison, talked a big game before he even coached one game for the Hoosiers. This guy was saying Purdue sucks, which he was right about. Purdue is maybe the worst team ever assembled. He said Ohio State sucks. Ohio State beat him. He said Michigan sucks. Like, he was talking a big game, and guess what? He backed it up with the 11-1 record in the regular season. Their only loss was to Ohio State. The final score in that game was a little bit misleading. They lost that like 38-15, but honestly, they were playing not to get blown out in that game. I honestly thought it was very weak, but we'll talk about that later on. Either way, Indiana's a really good team, and it's going to be a really fun matchup. All eyes in the college football world are going to be on Notre Dame and Indiana in this matchup. And it's going to be the first time that Notre Dame has had that stage really since week 1. When Notre Dame took on Texas A&M in the season opener, everyone in college football was talking about that game. They were watching that game, and Notre Dame had a huge win on the road in Kyle Field, and it was a great moment. I was there. It was one of the most fun games I've ever been to as a Notre Dame fan. But then the following week, as we all know, they lost to Northern Illinois, and all that momentum seemed to disappear. And then it felt like everyone else in college football just kind of ignored Notre Dame. Like, they were winning every single game they played after that. They were pummeling teams. They won 10 games in a row to close out the regular season, 9 of which came by double digits, and no one really seemed to care. They were just slowly climbing up the rankings. And then kind of at the end of the season, you could see a lot of people in the national media who were not paying attention to Notre Dame being like, hold on, wait, Notre Dame, after that loss to Northern Illinois, is ranked in the top 10. Now it looks like they're going to host a playoff game. Wait, hold on. How did this happen? And then the people like you who are watching every single game, listening to the show every single day, you're like, oh, I know what's going on with Notre Dame. They actually are a really good team, and maybe that loss to Northern Illinois was a fluke. And now here we are. So now everyone in the college football world is going to see Notre Dame take center stage once again in a really exciting matchup. So yeah, it's going to be a really tough game. This first game against Indiana is not going to be easy. I've seen some Notre Dame fans kind of discredit them. I would warn you, don't do that. There are quality players on both sides of the ball for Indiana. They are well coached. They're going to be ready to play in this one. So do not dismiss the Indiana Hoosiers. Right now, the early line is set at 8.5, according to our good friends at FanDuel. I think that's fair. I think Notre Dame should be favored by around a touchdown. I think the line might come down a little bit here, but it's going to be a very tough matchup. But you know what? Let's do it. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be so much fun. If they win that game, they get to play Georgia, the SEC champion. Notre Dame might be able to get some revenge on Georgia after 2 brutal losses back in 2019 and 2017. So it's going to be a really tough path for the Irish. It's going to be a really tough matchup in that first round, but I cannot wait. It is going to be so exciting. It is going to be so interesting. There are so many fun things to talk about, and we're going to have plenty of coverage coming your way over the course of these next 2 weeks in the lead up to that game, and hopefully a very long playoff run in the college football playoff throughout the month of December and into January as well.